Good morning, guys. Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation. I'm Owen James. This is your morning pod, guys. Look, coming at you this morning. Gotta go off to work later. I mean, look, I don't want to have to work. I do want to have to work. I like working. I'm not one of these people who'll sit around and get their money for nothing. I'm not one of those people. Obviously, the best way to do that, the best way to help me get out of the world of work is hit that sub. Help the channel to keep growing, guys. Keep watching the content. The aim, of course, is to do this full on a do here on Glasgow Rangers Nation. It means that we can obviously give you more content. It means that we can bring you more videos and more podcasts and get you more involved and do more with the channel, guys. So please obviously hit a sub on the video and keep watching the content. If you do want to support the channel, remember super chats, super stickers, always welcome there. We've got a comment in already this morning from Mr. Where's this thing going, man? Ricky Stewart there, bucking it onwards and upwards. Yeah, onwards and upwards. Yeah, definitely. Look, it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. We are obviously coming off the back of what has been a desperately disappointing Euro campaign. It's just been poor, hasn't it? It really has been poor. I think we all kind of said, didn't we, that it's a Rangers Thursday night. We love the Rangers Thursday nights, but we haven't loved Rangers Thursday nights this year, have we? We haven't loved them at all. I mean, we've loved them once, I think, Ludogorets at home, and that's pretty much been the only love we've had this season. It's been a season of just depression and boredom and just sheer disappointment and embarrassment at times in the Europa League. And look, it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. And morning, Staunchy Geezer. Morning, buddy. How you good? I suppose the hope has got to be that whatever European competition we're in next season, if we win the league, obviously, and we qualify for the Champions League via the playoff round, which looks like we're going to have to now, that we can do reasonably well in the Champions League. And I think, look, I want to just, before I talk about last night's game and I talk about the transfer window and the latest news and everything like that, I just want to address something to do with this Champions League, this misnomer, this misconception of fear when it comes to the Champions League. And I think there's a lot of fear when it comes to the Champions League. And I get why. Look, I get why. When you have a really bad experience in life, in whatever field and walk of life it is, you shy away then from that thing that happens. If you have a really bad breakup, you take some time off trying to find a partner. If you have a job where you get humiliated and you don't enjoy the job, and you'll stay away from that career for a little bit. Or if you eat some food that you don't like or you're not keen on, you'll stay away from it. If you have a horrific experience, if you get attacked by a dog, for example, or a cat, could happen if it's a big one. You fear it, don't you? You kind of run away from it and you go, oh, I don't want to be anything to do with that anymore. But I think we're all kind of scarred, aren't we, by that Champions League campaign, that last Champions League campaign where we were absolutely humiliated and we were absolutely embarrassed, by Liverpool, by Napoli in particular, obviously in that competition. But look, you look at this season's Champions League, and I'll be honest with you, the standard this year in the Champions League has not been great. It's not been great. And you look at the teams who qualified for the Champions League this season, league phase, and I'm not being funny, but I'm not massively terrified by any of them that are below sort of halfway in that league. Kairat lost every single game bar one. Villarreal lost every single game bar one. Slavia Prague, a team we've beaten in the past. Eintracht Frankfurt were dreadful. Ajax, poor. Copenhagen, poor. Napoli had a very bad season. Athletic Club, I think, look, yes, we lost Athletic Club last year, but we were very unlucky. Union Saint-Gilloise, we've beaten them before. Fafos, a Cypriot team, not particularly scary. Marseille, not a great team this year at all. Benfica scraped into the qualifying round with that 95th minute header from Truban. Bodo Glimt, yes, did done really well. Karabag, I don't know if any of you watched the Liverpool Karabag game the other night. Karabag, honestly, they reminded me of a Scottish Championship team. They were appalling. Monaco, Galatasaray, Club Brugge, Olympiacos. We got a draw in Piraeus last time we played them. So, I'm not massively scared by any of these teams in the Champions League. And look, with the way the Champions League now works, where, all the way down to 24th place, you get qualified for the next round. I'm confident that Rangers could find enough results to at least get into that top 24. I'm not saying we'd finish top 8. You know, we're not when you've got Real Madrid and Paris Saint-Germain and Manchester City and Arsenal and Chelsea and Newcastle and Liverpool and Inter Milan and all these teams. You know, I'm not saying we're going to finish top 8, but you know what? Give Danny Rule another summer to build. Give Danny Rule another summer and a whole pre-season to work with the squad. Give this board chance to build a team. Give this year the younger players in this squad another year in experiencing European football, experiencing, you know, playing for Rangers, experiencing the expectations and the pressure of playing for Rangers. And I think next season we're in a better place to compete in the Champions League. And you've got to also look at it this way. Two things on this one. One, the Champions League was always the target of this ownership group. This is why they came to Rangers, was to, you know, get Champions League football, because it is the, you know, Scotland is the easier way into the Champions League. You know, you're not going to get Champions League football at Leeds United, with the greatest respect to Leeds United, and, you know, not when the likes of Arsenal, Spurs, Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Villa exist. They're going to struggle to get top 4 in England. So, you know, Rangers is a great chance for them to go and get that Champions League football. So, look, let's look at it this way. William Salmon, good morning, buddy. How you doing? So, it's a great chance. And I think, look, second thing is the money. Just look at the money that you can earn from Champions League football. I mean, I'm just going to sort of talk to you a little bit about that quote, that figure. And that's what we want. We need that Champions League money. Part of what's made Celtic so successful this season, not this season, but past seasons, has been that Champions League money they've got. You know, has been from the money they've accrued. You know, it's been massive. It's been massive. You know, you get TV revenue, you get money for doing it. You know, it is just different. It is different class, isn't it, in terms of money that you can earn in the Champions League. I mean, they're talking about, you know, the 6 English clubs that have qualified for the next round, getting between up to around $600 million, about 500 million pounds, you know, for qualifying for the next round. It's ridiculous money, crazy money. You know, absolutely crazy money that they're getting. You know, from Champions League football. And Rangers, you know, a piece of that pie would be brilliant. Now, let me just give you a quote. This is from Kieran Maguire, who is one of the top financial guys on football finances. This is a guy who knows what he's talking about. You know, he said that each of these teams will earn around 80 to 90 million pounds for qualifying for the next round. They could earn even more, obviously, if they get to the semi-finals, finals, quarterfinals, etc. But 100 million euro is about 85 million pounds. That money could make such a massive difference. For us. It could make a huge difference for us going forward. So look, let's not be afraid of the Champions League. We've got a poll running, guys. Should Tav get a new deal? Yes or no? If you're voting yes, please tell me why. Because I can't see any reason on planet Earth, unless you're a Celtic fan, why he should get a new deal for next season. Because last night was sad. It was sad. It was like watching the slow death of a racehorse. It really was. Staunchy Geezer says, apparently the German side want to replace the big German lad before he comes to us. Why not say, okay, have Danilo? I don't think Danilo would go and play in the German 3rd division. That's the only thing I'd say on that one, Staunchy Geezer. I have heard that very similar rumour that they won't allow him to leave until they have a replacement. But look, we would do the same. Absolutely, we would do the same. Harvey Rowland, morning Harvey, how you good, buddy, says, do you think we'll get the Joel Perreault or we'll get Ryan Naderi by the end of the window? I think the Perreault one is possibly more likely because of our associations with Leeds United, because of course Parag Marathe, our vice chairman, is chairman of Leeds. Naderi, I think, will go down to the very last minute, given these issues with Hansa Rostock and the fact they want to replace him and they want a little bit more money from them. Perhaps we're prepared to offer. So I think we will get one of the two. I'm hoping to get both of them, but I think it's more likely to be one of the two. Staunchy Geezer said no, Tav's done. Rangers at the back are a real problem. If the teams play the ball fast, then over the back from the flanks, we get caught out time and time again. Slow as a week in jail, says the silent assassin. We are the people. I've got to agree with you on that one, buddy. Last night, the Porto wingers took James Tavernier to school. They really did. They absolutely, in the words of the NFL, cooked that fool. He got cooked. He got cooked on a regular basis. He got cooked, flambéed and fried on a regular basis. And it was sad to watch because the winger went past him and then you got Tav slowly plodding like he's towing a caravan and running through treacle at the same time, trying to catch up with him. And it just shows the man's done. The man's done at this level. He's just done at this level. And look, as an example I gave on the video this morning, I mean, Gary Neville, after playing West Brom, and it wasn't even a good team, it was West Brom, just turned round and said, nah. This was even, I mean, Sobbo, yeah, wasn't Aaron's right. Yeah, but he was right side centre back, Tav, and he got absolutely cooked and fried on a regular basis. David Edgar said the same thing. You know, this is not just me with my anti-Tav agenda. This is coming from like a guy who is like David Edgar, who's saying exactly the same thing. This is coming from a number of people within the Rangers media who are saying that he looked just so out of it last night. There is no defence for him. I mean, like I said, if you're voting yes to give him a new deal, which is 17% of you have done, please tell me why he deserves a new deal, because I can't see any way that we move forward as a club with him still at the club, realistically, because he's done. He's finished, in terms of being able to play in defence. I don't think he has a role to play. As I said on the video this morning, and as I said on the post I put out last night, any man, and I mean man, with any self-respect, looks himself in the mirror this morning and says, no, I'm done. And would come out this morning and say, guys, I've had a great career at Rangers. I've loved every minute of it. But the end of the season, that's it for me. Done. Harvey says, can I ask your thoughts on Super Bowl predictions? Seattle Seahawks versus New England Patriots. Staunchy Geezer, I think the Seattle Seahawks will absolutely smash the New England Patriots. Their offense is not effective. Drake May is not going to be able to move the ball against that Seattle defense. Seattle, I think, has enough weapons with the likes of Jackson Smith and Jigba on offense, and I think the Seahawks will win. Why did Roll play Tav? He must know Tav's done. I think he wanted to go 5 at the back. He hoped, I think, that playing Tav at right side centre back with Aarons outside of him must protect him. But it didn't work, did it? It didn't work. And I'm not saying Aarons is the answer. I didn't think Aarons had a good game at all last night. I thought he was poor at all. Aarons is an embarrassment. That dive was absolutely pathetic. If that's all you have in your locker, leave. Just fucking leave, says the silent assassin. Yeah, I mean, that dive was embarrassing. Billy Dodds on commentary last night on the radio. I did listen on the radio, then watch when I got home. He was saying it was embarrassing as well. And if you're going to go down, you've got to at least try and feel for some contact before throwing yourself to the ground. That's what Billy Dodds came out and said last night. Peter says, I would say he was at fault for the first 2 goals, not to mention other incidents. I know it's easy to pick a scapegoat, but for fuck's sake, come on. Yeah, I mean, look, this is the thing. And I'm not saying he was solely to blame for everything last night. You know, he wasn't by any stretch of the imagination. Jack Butland, on the second goal, has a lot to answer for. He should have come out and cleared everyone out. And we do have a discussion around Jack Butland to have. And I thought the whole defence last night, even Fernandez at times struggled. I mean, that tackle he did put in, that saving tackle to keep it at 1-0 at the start of the game, was absolutely outstanding. The one they wanted a penalty for, but was never a penalty. It was a great tackle. He had that moment, but overall the whole defence did struggle. I thought they improved second half. I thought they got better second half. I thought the changes that Danny made did improve it. Don't get me wrong, going to back 4, I would have taken Tav off personally. But, that's just me. But there we go. Morning, Janet. How you doing? You doing good? Right, look. Let's talk about last night's game, shall we? I mean, it started so positively. I mean, that's the big thing for me. It really did start very well, and I thought Rangers were excellent for the first 15 minutes. I thought they were absolutely excellent for the first 15 minutes. I thought that the goal we scored was brilliant. And credit Tav for the interception and playing the ball out to Finlay Curtis. I thought Finlay Curtis was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Finlay Curtis was absolutely brilliant. the cross he puts in for JD Gassama's goal was outstanding. And my take on the whole Finlay Curtis situation is he should be staying at Rangers for the rest of the season. He should be part of that winger rotation going forward. You know, you're not going to use, and people say, well, he's not going to get in the team over Skov Olsen and Gassama. Well, yeah, maybe not, but you cannot play. If we're going to push for the Scottish Cup and the league until now, until the end of the season, you can't play the same players week in, week out. You've got to rotate because you're going to get player burnout otherwise. So you've got to have rotation there. So for me, you keep Finlay Curtis and you rotate Finlay Curtis in with Skov Olsen and with Gassama. You know, please don't come at me with Oliver Antman. Oliver Antman came on last night and was Oliver Pantsman. I mean, he really was genuinely poor last night. And since that first game at Plitzen, he has been awful. And I know he's got a decent record in the Eredivisie, but he's been awful for us. And I'll be honest with you, to me, I would be like before I move Curtis on this window, I move Antman on. I really do. I move Antman on before I move Curtis on. Keep Curtis in the team. Curtis, for me, was one of the best players on the park last night. He was direct. He was attacking. You know, he took every opportunity to try and get at Porto in a difficult situation. And like I said, the assist for the goal was absolutely superb. So for me, I'd keep Finlay Curtis in the team, on the bench, off the bench, use him in the cup as a starter, use him off the bench in the league. I think he's got great potential. I think he's a very good player. I think he brings an excitement, a directness, an attacking verve to the team. So I definitely would do that. Definitely on that. What have we got? Some more comments coming in. We've got the Tav fan club in. Porto on the break are dangerous. Very true, Silent Assassin. I said this morning, I think Porto will go far in this tournament. I really do. I think they're a very, very good side, very well coached side with some very good players who I think will move on at the end of the season. I think the likes of Samu Agahawa, I think Mora, I think Sainz, I think are all players, Gomez are all players who will attract interest from the top 5 leagues, particularly from England, come at the summer. So Magoma dings it to a Porto player and it was Tavernier's fault. RRM, are you denying then that Tavernier last night was fucking awful? I mean, genuinely was piss poor. He was totally to blame for the second goal. I'm not so sure on the first goal. Fair enough. I never blamed him for the first goal. I blamed him for the second goal. He was to blame for that second goal. 90% of it was on him. 10% was on Butland. Tavernier looked lost last night. And honestly, there's no defending him last night. There isn't. I had a feeling when we went 1-up early on, things were going to go tits up, says Staunchy Geezer. It's always dangerous, I suppose, to go, you're assuming that Skov Olsen is going to hit the ground running. There is no guarantee of that. True. No, he was awful, says RM. Yeah, he was. Yeah, I mean, look, Skov Olsen is rebuilding, isn't he? He's not had a full season or a full go at it with Wolfsburg, has he? He hasn't. He has played the games as a sub. He's come on. He hasn't played every single game for Wolfsburg. He's lacking in confidence. He's lacking in match sharpness. So yeah, I mean, there's no guarantee that he hits the ground running from minute one. So yeah, I agree with you on that one. But Finlay Curtis, for me, needs to stay. No, he wasn't the only one, and I'm not saying he was the only one. I thought the whole defence was poor last night. Janice says, I'm laid up in bed with this virus going about, and I would still have been faster than Tav last night. Lol. Very true. Same as you, listened on the radio, then watched when it got later. When I saw what happened, it was a catalogue of errors, a good start after a good start. Skov needs time, but there's quality player in there. I agree, there is. He is a very good footballer. You can tell. You know, his touch, his movement, he is a good player. And I think, yeah, give him time to come up to shot, to get his sharpness, to get his fitness. For me, you've got a quality player in there. Absolute quality player in there in Skov Olsen. I agree on that one. Guys, please obviously remember, can you smash the like on the video for me? Please obviously subscribe if you can subscribe. Yeah, that would be absolutely fantastic if you could do that for me. Help out, obviously, grow the channel. If you want to support the channel, you know how to do it. Become a member, or obviously super chats, super thanks. Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, look, let's go on about last night. So, yeah. So, look, I think we're heading in. Look, second half was a lot better than the first half, and I think again it's encouraging because it shows that Danny Rule knows what he's doing. Danny again changed things at half time. He made changes. He changed things. He changed the shape, and he stabilised it. Yes, I think part of it was down to the fact that he was that Porto did to some degree in the second half sit back a little bit and kind of take their foot off the accelerator. They didn't really go for it big time. I think there was a general feeling, and this was something that Billy Dodd said, that had they wanted to suddenly step it up and go for it again, they probably could have done. But I thought we did better second half, and I think the changes that Danny made certainly, helped out last night. But, the same weaknesses remain there in Europe. I think, one, the inexperience in Europe didn't help matters. You look at last night's team, and there's not a lot of players in that team last night with vast European experience. And I think that kind of hurt us last night. I mean, ironically, one of the best players on the park doesn't have much European experience and has been brilliant in the Europa League and in the Champions League qualifying, which was Dayne Gassama, who's scored 6 of his 8 goals in Europe. But I mean, you look at it last night and, yes, Tav's got a lot of European experience. Butland's obviously played a lot with us, but, Fernandez, no European experience. Giga, no European experience. Aaron's very little actual European Cup competition. Yes, he's played at Valencia, but he hasn't played in the Europa League or Champions League. Dio has it for us. Magoma, no experience. Raskin has for us. Gassama, none. Curtis, none. Yusuf Chimiti, none. So, that naivety to some degree won't have helped. They're still learning. They're still developing. I think one of the big things for me, though, as well last night was the complete lack of cutting edge up top. There was just literally nothing at the front for Rangers last night. Nothing at all. Gio says Tav is done at this level, can't defend, legs are gone. I'm still not decided if it was a world-class downward header by Gassama or he fluffed it and got lucky. Let's go with world-class downward header, RM. Let's give him some credit. Thing that annoys me is he also thinks he should be taking everything as well as corners, free kicks, throw-ins, give someone else a chance. Ironically, Peter, we actually look better from set pieces when he doesn't take them. There's got to be some sort of correlation in the fact that we were looking really good from set pieces and scoring goals when other people were taking corners. The moment Tav's gone back on the corners, we sucked again. He very rarely beats the first man or he overhits them. I agree. I don't know why he feels he has to take everything. He's like a year 11 playing with the year 7s at dinner time, isn't he? A secondary school, he really is. So yeah, absolutely, I agree on that one. He is a bit my ball, isn't he? My ball, all the time. I personally think that Tav has an exceptionally high opinion of himself. I think Tav thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but he's got to learn that he isn't. And the one thing I'd say to everyone who comes out and says about Tav is, how many English Premier League clubs have ever come in for him? How many top English Premier League clubs have ever shown an interest in someone who's supposedly this amazing right back? None. So, that kind of gives you a story in itself, doesn't it? But, I thought we lacked cutting edge up top last night. I really do. I think we did lack just the ability. My worry was that, even those half chances that we tried to create in that second half, there was the Raskin 30-yard shot and there was the odd bits of movement around the box. There's just still nothing up there that would worry or scare the opposition. And I'll repeat what I said on the video yesterday. I'll repeat what I've said on numerous videos. I'm feeling very much Philippe Clement, top of the league vibes here. I'm feeling very much we need a striker. We've got to sign a striker, whether that be Joel Peru, I'll talk about him in a moment, whether that be Ryan Naderi, or whether that be both of them. We need a striker. I thought Chimiti last night was poor again. A stat for you guys. Chimiti has scored 4 goals in 25 games. Please don't come at me with this. His hold-up play is good, or he runs the back 4, whatever. He's paid to score goals. That's why he's in the team. And I get, as someone who's a bit of a traditionalist when it comes to football, to me, it's you've got to have a forward that puts the ball in the back of the net. That's what a forward does. A forward. I get sick of these football purists, and you know who they are. Some of the Rangers pods have them on as well. They go, oh, he's key to the system, or he's key on how he works. No, a centre forward is to score goals. That's what a centre forward is brought to do. Put the ball in the back of the net 20 to 25 times in a league season, 30 to 35 times across all competitions. You look at the teams that win trophies on a consistent, regular basis. They have a number 9 who puts the ball in the back of the net on a regular basis. Okay, they have someone who scores goals. Manchester City, Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland is there to score goals. That's what he's there for. He's there to put the ball in the back of the net on a consistent basis. He's not there to look pretty or to hold the ball up or to score, to not score goals, which seems to be acceptable for some at this moment in time. He's there to put the ball in the back of the net. Paris Saint-Germain, Dembele scores goals for them. That's what he does. He puts the ball in the back of the net. Real Madrid, Kylian Mbappe puts the ball in the back of the net on a regular basis. Bayern Munich, Harry Kane puts the ball in the back of the net on a regular basis. Yes, I'm talking about world-class players here. But, even in Scotland, and this is an analogy I will use in Scotland, this is my question. Does for those of you who don't think that Chermity's a lost cause, fair enough, but does Chermity get in the Hearts team? Does Chermity make the Hearts team? If Shankland's fit and Braga's fit, does Chermity get in the Hearts team? That's the question you need to ask. For me, he gets nowhere near it. He's on the bench every game for them. Braga and Shankland, every game start for me. To me, he doesn't even make the Celtic team. He doesn't even get in that team either. So, to me, Chermity is just a poor footballer. If you're going to play Chermity, you've got to play him as a 2. You can't play him as a sole striker, which we do. We don't play with 2 strikers. We play with 1 striker. I think he could work as part of a 2. Certainly, he could be the hold-up guy who lays on the chances, but we don't play with a 2. He could be like the Emil Heskey, I guess, to Michael Owen back in the day. The Dennis Bergkamp, he's not as good as Bergkamp, to Ian Wright, etc., etc. He to me, yes, he wasn't at the races last night. To me, he is not a good centre-forward. He just isn't up to it. The Bluebells are blue. Welcome, buddy. Says, no reputable club in the world has a right-back like Tav. There's a reason for that. It's not a compliment. Agreed. And, look, you see this season how much... Trent Alexander-Arnold does not get any games at Real Madrid, and they want rid of him. He's a very similar sort of player to Tav. Defensively weak, but good going forward. Does Curtis get in the Hearts team? No, he doesn't. Probably not. But I'm not saying start him, RM. I'm saying that he should be part of a winger rotation with Skov Olsen and Gassama starting and him coming off the bench or at least starting in cup games. I don't care who scores as long as we win. Agreed? I agree. But it would make winning a lot easier and it wouldn't be a lot of scraping 1-0s, scraping 2-1s. And I think there'd be a lot of games we could put away far, far easier if we had a top-class striker who put the ball in the back of the net on a regular basis. If we had a McCoist, for example, someone like that at the club, we would have, I think, a lot better chance of winning the league and winning games a lot more easily than we do at this point in time. Danilo up front would have been a better bet. Yeah, I think he would have been. I think he would have been a better bet last night than Chermity. He is more of a 10, I agree, RM. I don't think Danilo is an out-and-out 9. He never was. He was never used. You go back to his time at Ajax, he was never used as an out-and-out 9. He was always used more to the wide left or in that 10 role. So yeah, look, Danilo's going to go. We know that. Miovski doesn't fit the way we play. Miovski is another one who works. It may even be interesting, I think, if we don't get a striker in this window, which would be an absolute travesty for me. Do we go with 2 up top? Do we try and somehow play 2 up top and go with Miovski and Chermity? Now, if you look at Miovski, when he was successful at Aberdeen, he was playing up alongside, was it Sokola, their player? He was playing alongside, so he was playing as part of a 2. Maybe we look at that and try and get in a position where Miovski's not asked to do the hold-up play. Miovski's not asked to do the donkey work because he really isn't good at that. Miovski is an off-the-shoulder, fast, running behind kind of striker or a fox in the box, a guy who scores from half chances in the box. He's not a set yourself up, beat a man, hold the ball up, turn with the ball at your chest, beat a man, out-muscle a man. That's not how Miovski plays. And I think when you play Miovski up front on his own, he struggles. The press does drop 20 yards and Miovski replaces Chermity. Yeah, because Miovski is not that type of striker. He is purely a guy who's going to sit on the shoulder of the very last man and try and run in behind. That's what he did for Aberdeen. If you go back and watch a lot of the goals he scored for Aberdeen, and particularly against us, it was balls over the top or through the channels between Goldson and Suter, where he gets onto the ball and he goes in on goal and scores goals. To me, we don't do that with him. We try and use him like Chermiti as a target man. And yeah, the press does drop because he doesn't feel confident, I don't think, for the balls played up to him. So he comes deeper to try and link a little bit more, and it doesn't work. I feel like Chermiti is like Matondo, only interested in the money. Possibly. We have 3 strikers right now and none of them are scoring goals. Correct. Our press drops 20 yards when Miovski replaces Chermiti. I mean, I'll be honest as well. You look at what we took out of the squad, like the squad in the summer, and, you know, whatever your feelings are on Hamza Igerman, on Cyril Dessers, on Václav Černý, you know, we took a lot of goals out of that team. Was it 50, 60 goals out of the team we took? And we've replaced it with these 3, who between them haven't scored 10, I don't think, yet this season. So, you know, it is not looking great from that aspect. And I think the striker search has to really heat up over the next few months. Next few days, not months. Next, 4 days is it we've got left of this window? 4 days to go in the window. You know, we do need to get a striker in ASAP for me. Failure to bring in a striker, I think, in this window would be just awful. And again, I think it would then take us back to, you know, it would take us back, I think, to the Clement days, you know, when we were top of the league and Clement was the manager. If we brought in a Shankland at that point or someone, or a Nisbet or someone like that, we win the league that season. I confidently predict that we do that. You know, I really do confidently predict we do that. But look, at the end of the day, it all comes down to the fact, can we get someone over the line? So Sky Germany are saying this morning that a new bid has been submitted for Ryan Naderi of £3.1 million. But it has been rejected by Hansa Rostock because they don't want to sell their best player as they try to get promoted to the second Bundesliga. However, Naderi apparently is desperate to come to Rangers, wants to move. Now, look, this is something that Naderi is I think, a player who could come in and make a difference. Now, one of the things that is being suggested, and I really don't think this is a goer by any stretch of the imagination, is that Rangers buy Naderi in January for that 3.5 million, but then we loan him back to Rostock for the rest of the season. That is what is being spoken about in the German media. For me, that is an absolute no-starter. Why would we buy a striker, then send him back to his parent club and not use him? Yes, project for the future, I get, but we need striker now. The only way that works for me would be if we go out and get someone else. That would be a Peru, for example. And we'll mention that in a moment. Let's look at some of your comments that just come in. Bluebells are blue. Says neither Chermiti nor Miovski are good enough. Both can be true at the same time. Very much true. I agree. I don't think any of our strikers are good enough, mate. It was the right time to sell Dessers. I agree. I'm not saying we should have kept Dessers. I'm just saying we took a lot of goals out and we didn't replace like with like. And that's down to Thelwell. Varela was brilliant for Porto last night, moving from midfield to defence as if we weren't there. He was absolutely superb last night. He burst forward to bolster the midfield, and then when they were defending, he dropped in to make a 5. He was brilliant. 4-4-2 flat, I think, was the better formation, says Silent Assassin. Look, I wouldn't be against playing a 4-4-2 in the Scottish League. You know, in domestic league games, why would you not perhaps go with a 4-4-2? I mean, look, the best 4-4-2 we can play if everyone's fit, and this is the big if everyone is fit. You know, and that's the big thing, isn't it? Obviously, keeping everyone fit has been an issue at Rangers for quite a while now. I would go with something like this as a starting 11 in a 4-4-2 if everyone is fit. You know, you go with something like this, for example. I'm going to put it in the live chat now. See what you think. Tell me your opinions on this. I think, if everybody is available and ready to start, then if you had something along these lines as a 4-4-2, this could work, I think. If Danilo played off Chermiti, I think it would have been more threatening, says Stanislasin, possibly. My back 4-4-2, Butland, back 4, Sterling if he's fit, Suter, Fernandez and Romans, Skov Olsen, Raskin, Chouani, Gassama, Chermiti and Miovski. So that for me would be the situation. I think that would be the best 4-4-2. And I don't think there's anything wrong with playing 4-4-2 in Scotland. You can create overloads out wide with that, our defence is terrible, I agree. But is it going to be as much of an issue, RM, against the likes of Dundee United, Livingston? Yes, maybe against Celtic you go back to a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. And against Hearts you go back to a 4-2-3-1. But against some of those other teams, we should be more attacking, more aggressive, particularly at Ibrox, with the likes of Dundee United and Livy and Aberdeen and who else in the lower sides anyway. Where are the new signings, says Gorguts. I mean, look, I think it's a situation where it's coming. It is a situation I think that the club are trying to put right, and I've just obviously talked about the Naderi situation, where it is up to with that one. Look, in terms of Joel Piroe, Joel Piroe is a player who previously did interest Rangers. He was a player who was previously linked with us. I think you can remember in the summer that we got Dessers, Lammers and etc. We were looking at a lot of strikers at that point. We were looking at the likes, obviously, of Josh Madger. We were looking at Joel Piroe, who eventually went to Leeds. So to me, he would be a very, very good signing. He would be a very, very, very good signing. But there are complications when it comes to the Piroe deal. So this story this morning, and look, I'm not saying this is the most reliable of sources, because it isn't. It's Team Talk. Team Talk are not great. I think, if you want reliable sources on transfer news, you look at, Plettenberg, you look at Ornstein, you look at Romano, Tovoglieri, Shearer, people like that, not Alan Shearer, Nicolo Shearer. You look at those guys for reliable stories. Now, Team Talk this morning says this. Team Talk understands Joel Piroe has made it clear to Leeds United that he has no interest in a move to Rangers, despite a proposal pushed internally by figures at both clubs. That a situation could change if the Whites manage to sign an upgrade of their own. Piroe joined Leeds for an initial $12 million from Swansea in August 2023, though the Whites were obliged to pay the Swans $2 million bonus after they sealed promotion to the Premier League back in May. Having scored 33 goals across 97 appearances in the 2 campaigns, the 26-year-old proved himself one of the more accomplished goal poachers in the second tier. And he scored 46 in 93, I think it was, whilst he was at Swansea. Now, but the step up to the Premier League has been tough for Piroe, having not started a league game since August, having been shoved down the pecking order by both Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Lucas Nmecha. The striker finds himself well out of Daniel Farke's plans at the moment. Now, with Leeds open to moving him on, sources have told us that Leeds chairman Parag Marathe, who also is vice chairman of Rangers, floated the idea of sending Piroe north of the border, with Rangers boss Danny Rule open to exploring the possibility. However, we understand as things stand, the Dutchman has firmly resisted the suggestion, signalling that a switch to Glasgow is not something he is prepared to entertain at this stage. But apparently there is interest in the English Championship, so it appears that obviously the English Championship sides could come a-calling. So apparently Ipswich and Middlesbrough are both interested in Piroe. Could that be something he looks at? I don't know. Now, we were interested in Dan Neil from Sunderland. He's now gone to Ipswich, so that one's out the window. At the moment, it appears the Piroe thing is kind of a little bit on hold, with him not wanting to come. But as it said in the article, if Leeds were to sign a striker, another striker could be faced a situation where he has no choice but to leave, because he's not going to get a game. And surely the aim of any footballer is to play football. Silent Assassin says, we need to get back to work, guys, so you'll have to think, no worries. Only keep tab if they change the rules. You can bring on a sub to take penalties, then take them off again, Owen, lol. James Muir, yeah, like what in hockey, you mean? get you to assist with tactics for Danny Rule. Good first 11, Owen. Thank you, Peter. Leeds made it clear to Perrault that he didn't have a place in the team. And I think, the more that this is pushed him, maybe this move becomes more attractive. But like I said, the fact that Ipswich and Middlesbrough are also in for him, he may look at it in terms of the English Championship being something that may be more attractive to him. If we'd been in Europe still, maybe that changes. I don't know. But, certainly then you've got to raise a question. If you've got a player that doesn't really want to come, do you really want him to come? That's a question for me. So the whole Perrault thing appears to be stalled at the moment. But look, how many times in the past have we had players saying they want to stay and fight for their place, they want to do this, they want to do that, and then suddenly, out of left field, they move. So, look, I don't think there's any guarantees on Perrault, not coming, staying. I think if we could get Perrault, I think it would be a great move, personally. I think he's a very, very good footballer. He scores goals. He puts the ball in the back of the net. He's a big physical guy. I think he could make a huge difference, personally. So I would be all in favour, of bringing him in. I think he would be a good move if we could get it over the line. Absolutely. If we get this one over the line, guys. Look, it is what it is in terms of strikers. I think, the Dairy thing seems to be very complicated at the moment, but we do need a striker. It is absolutely imperative that before the transfer window closes, that Rangers bring a striker to the club, because the three that we've got, I don't think are good enough to win us the title. I really don't. I really don't think that the three that we have can win us this league. We need to be able to put teams away more easily than we are currently doing. And that is a big concern for me. And my worry is that we will just not have enough goals to get us over the line. When we come to play Hearts at Ibrox, we've got to beat them. And when we play Celtic at Ibrox, we've got to beat them. And the problem will be the chances will not be as plentiful as they are against the Dundees. Would you rather have a striker or a good right back? A striker, because a striker that gets you a couple of goals per game will offset any shit right back. And I think you can protect your shit right back a little bit more through your defensive midfielders, through your wingers. They can drop back in and cover. We saw last night what Varela did for Porto. You drop back into a 3. So when we are defending, you drop your defensive midfielder into the back 2 to make a 3. You then defend as a 5, which means if they do get past Tav, the right side centre back can then come across and cover. So you can kind of tactically manoeuvre around carrying a player who is perhaps not as strong defensively, whereas tactically manoeuvring around not scoring enough goals, you can't do. You've got to be able to put the ball in the back of the net to win football matches. And my concern is we don't put the ball in the back of the net on a regular enough basis. Massively. Each to their own, of course, but I'm astounded 12% of the vote said yes. It's crazy to me how many fans still think Tav has much to offer. I agree, Bluebells. I don't think he has anything to offer. 18% of you thought he should get a new deal. I've yet to hear one convincing argument from anybody, as to why he should get a new deal. Of those votes, you're looking at 50% of the people who vote, 50 votes, 18% of those people voted yes. You're looking at 7-8 people there. Please, those people, tell me why. Unless you're a Celtic fan just dipping in and then dipping straight out again. He can't have much ambition. It's money. He won't win much with Ipswich or Middlesbrough. Forget him. Look elsewhere, says Gio. I agree. To some degree, to me, a player who doesn't want to come, you don't force them. At the end of the day, you look at it and you say, look, you don't want to come, you don't want to come. No, I'm not one of the 18%. I didn't say you were RM. I'd love to know. Like I said, I would love to know. I'd love to know how he continues to delude some people. I really do. Yes, he scores penalties, but I'm sorry, you could get a striker to take penalties, or you could get a winger to take penalties, or I reckon Raskan can hit a mean penalty. So I reckon Skov Olsen could probably hit a mean penalty. So do we really need him? I think not. Look, it is what it is, guys. We do need a striker. We need someone in before the transfer window closes for me to negate this scraping wins and been cardiac Rangers, basically, that are just winning 1-0, 2-1, 2-0 here and there. We need to put teams away. And when we come to play Hearts and Celtic at Ibrox, we need to put them away. Chances will not be as plentiful as they are against Dundee United, Livy, Aberdeen, Kilmarnock, where you get a lot of chances. And yeah, you may have, say, 15 chances. You may miss 13 of them, but you'll score 2 and they won't score 3, so you're going to win the game. So at the end of the day, it's not a bigger concern. But when you play Celtic and Hearts, you're going to get less chances. We've seen this year that Hearts are a very good side. They're very well organised. They're defensively solid. They're good going forward. You know, Derek McInnes is a good manager. We've seen that Celtic under Martin O'Neill are not going to roll over and die as much as we hope they are, and as much as we hope the Europa League might stop them. I think, you know, we are perhaps short of a 6 Bluebells, but I'll say what I said, you know, at the start of the January transfer window. I don't think you answer every issue in a January transfer window, because you can't bring in 5-6 players. You know, yes, in an ideal world, we still need a 6, a centre-back, a right-back, a striker. For me, at least another 4 players we need. Now, we're not going to bring in 7 players in a January transfer window. You may get 4, maybe 5 at a push. You know, the summer is the time, I think, when you bring in even more players and you move players on. I don't think you get that many players. Mad Pup says, if we keep him, he has to move to centre-back role and not running up at the other end of the park just to take corners or throw-ins. Yeah, I don't even think he's strong enough to play centre-back, mate. I will give praise or blame to whoever I think deserves it, but I won't blame one person for everything. That's what's wrong in the team. And I didn't blame him for everything, RM. I thought the whole defence last night was fucking disgusting, and Butland was partly to blame again. The reason why I've talked about Tav is because there's this debate over him getting another year, and his legs are gone, and it's sad. And I said on the video this morning, and if you haven't watched the video this morning, go and watch it. I don't slag him off. I'm not saying he's embarrassing or he's dreadful. I say it is sad to see where we are with him now, that he's like a lame old racehorse that's run his race and he's done. Are we still trying to get both a striker and a 6 in that order, priority-wise? I'm led to believe. We may still well be doing that, Bluebells. I don't know. I haven't got any inside knowledge on that. Yeah, I know, I'm just saying. I'm saying what I said, mate. Saying what I said. Right, guys, that is it for this morning. I've got to go and get ready for work, unfortunately. Thank you ever so much for your comments and your involvement this morning in the podcast. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, as always, here on the channel. If you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe to the channel. And I will catch you very, very soon here on GRN. Thank you very much. See you later.